Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, Watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach, Wamalak Yahushai, double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting and laboring for the second coming of our Lord Yahushai. A hearty, mighty Shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there on highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnify the ministry, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent, and they're abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, zealous, diligent, and on fire, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom to the ancient men. Shalom to the children. Shalom to the elect of Israel scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to everybody tuning in live. D-Vash Branch, Yvette McKellar, Servant 144K, HBK Ent, Don Israel Tamid, Kyoko Banyumyan, Taylor C, Ephraimite Ak, Tapuak, Yazian David Yehuda Israel, Brother Believe, Vernon Brody, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. Right? Biblical secrets, untold truth of what really happened on Mount Sinai. Right? Biblical secrets, untold truth of what really happened on Mount Sinai. So, the spirit of this lesson is inspired from one of the last camps that we had, where we had this individual that came up and he wanted to discuss, what happened on Mount Sinai essentially. And we kind of went to it, for the most part. But there's a lot more that happened on Mount Sinai that the average Christian, or even your brothers that just come in this thing, or sisters that are newly coming into this truth, they may not be aware of. So we have to go through these precepts and actually explain, what happened in the ancient world and expound upon these things, man. Like it tells you in Nehemiah, the 8th chapter, that they read in the book of the law of God distinctly and gave the sense, right, and caused them to understand the reading. Right, this Nehemiah 8 and 8. So they read in the book and the law of God distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading. Because a lot of times, first and foremost, Jake really doesn't read, man. A lot of our understanding that we get from what happened in the Old Testament or from the Bible comes from movies, comes from hearsay, right? It comes from things you've seen on TV. It comes from words that you've heard your pastor or your Catholic priest say, or your Christian bishop or deacon, but they haven't shown it out the Bible. A lot of things come with your own understanding. When people said, I'm gonna try to read the Bible, and everybody wants to get into these scriptures, but they don't have the understanding, right? So it's our job through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai to give the sense, right? To make this thing plain upon tables and cause them, right, the Israelites to understand the reading. So we're going to go into what happened regarding the Ten Commandments, right? And what happened on Mount Sinai through the Spirit, right? This is what everybody knows about the Ten Commandments, right? Your average Joe, if you go to any city, you go to Detroit, Chicago, Miami, New York, LA, if you took a poll and you asked just the average Joe, right? Average man, average woman, have you heard of the Ten Commandments? You're about 9, maybe 8 to 9 out of 10 times they're going to, say yes, right? Maybe 7, right? Everybody knows about the Ten Commandments, right? And how Moses was given the Ten Commandments, but nobody really goes into detail about what really happened on Mount Sinai through the Spirit, right? And this picture right here clearly shows from the movie with Charleston Hester, the Ten Commandments in the ancient Hebrew tongue, right? In the ancient Hebrew script right here, the Paleo Hebrew script, right? Now, let's go. So that shows that these scholars, these movie directors, they pay big money to these different archaeologists and historians for these classical timepieces to make sure it's as historically accurate as it can ever be. So if they wanted a biblically accurate movie, they're going to take the biblical script that was used during that time and use that for the Ten Commandments. First, let's go to the book of Exodus, the 19th chapter. But let's see what really happened, right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Yahushua. Right now, this is what happened on Mount Sinai. We're going to start at Exodus 19 and 10, right? Exodus chapter 19 and 10. Make sure the screen is shown. All right, it reads, and Yahweh said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. Why? Because this is about to be what you call a holy convocation. Yahweh Ba'ashmiel Shah is about to appear to the children of Israel, right? So you have to sanctify yourself, meaning wash yourself, purify your spirit, get your mind right, because you're about to approach the Lord, right? Verse number 11, and be ready against the third day. For the third day, the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai, right? So this is the Lord coming down. Now, it's not literally the Most High God getting off of his throne and coming down. The Lord comes down by means of Yahweh Shah. He comes down by means of the angels. The Lord comes down by means of the chariots. The Lord comes down and can talk to you through a prophet, right? So you have to have the discernment. Like the Lord said, the spiritual man, he discerneth all things, right? Or he judgeth all things, yet he himself is judged of no man, right? This is 1 Corinthians, I'll read 2 and 14, chapter 2 and 14. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. So some people don't understand when things are spiritual. A lot of people see the word Lord and they immediately just say it's God, as in the Heavenly Father himself, not knowing the different avenues and different armies that the Most High has in the third heaven that walk, speak, and do things on his direct behalf, right? So the Lord coming down on Mount Sinai is not literally the Heavenly Father coming off of the throne, right? You're going to find out when the Lord came down, it was Yahweh Shai and the angels that came down. Okay, right? Now, this is when the Lord came down. This is similar to, let me get this other quick account in Genesis 11. The Lord came down to see the tower that the children of men builded, right? This Genesis chapter 11 and 5. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. Now, this is during the construction of the city and tower of Babel. It was a city and the tower they were building, not just the tower, right? Nevertheless, it says the Lord came down. Now, this goes into the angels that came down, and they were responsible for collecting information and putting out a hit on all these different children of men to confound their languages, right? But you see in Genesis 11 and 5, it says the Lord came down, right? But it's not literally the Most High, right? It's talking about the angels. The Lord came down in Genesis the 19th chapter by means of 2 death angels to scope out Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So let's go down. Exodus 19 and 12. Let's read on. So the Lord said he's going to come down in the sight of all of the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves, that ye go not up unto the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mount shall surely be put to death. So there are boundaries. Like if a celebrity or A-list actor go into a building, go into a club, they put the boundaries. They give you that red rope on the VIP section, right? You can't go in there, man. If you try to breach that line, hey, them big security guys, man, they don't pay those guys big money to sit around. They'll grab you up, man, put their hands on you, toss you out the building. And that's mad for worldly celebrities who mean nothing. So how much more how about Shmuel Shah? You can't just walk up and breach the line, man. He's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So if you touch the mount, you get put to death. These were strict instructions about what happened on Mount Sinai. Verse number 13, there shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When a trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. So if you approach that mount, you get stoned or you get shot through, right? And the Lord will shoot you through, man. He'll shoot you, man, with a chariot, with a laser beam, The Lord will shoot, man, right? Man and beast. Verse 14, and Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day. Come not at your wives, meaning don't have sex with your wives. Don't lay down with your wives carnally. Why? Because you will become ceremonially unclean. So you want to have, when it's holy convocations, when it's time to sanctify yourself, like the Shabbat, right? You don't come at your wives. You don't lay down with your wife because you become unclean, right? You want this. This is a set apart event that's about to go down. The Lord said, come not at your wives. Verse number 16. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. So this is a big deal. Like we were saying on the Friday camp, the Most High is into theatrics, right? The Most High is into wonders, signs, right? The Most High is into splendor and great, doing things in a spectacular fashion, man. So when the Lord came down, he's not going to creep in there. He's not going to tiptoe. He's going to make that entrance, man. Every king has that entrance, man. You got people that blow the trumpets. Then you got the guys that carry them, man, like King Xerxes in it. Let me see if I can find that. If you've seen the movie 300, it was carrying this guy on a whole platform. Look at this. And he had an army in front of him, right? He had a massive army in front of him, and he had about 50 people carrying him. And that's earthly man. When he made his entrance before so-called King Leonidas. And that's what man does in his power. How much more the Most High who gave man power. So the Lord came down in fashion, man. You had thunders, you had lightnings, you had the trumpet that got louder and louder and louder. This was a big deal. This wasn't like a thunderstorm or, a tornado and man is kind of scared. This is the appearance of the glory of Yahweh Shai at its finest, man. Right? At its finest. Let me read this again in Exodus 19 and 16. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud. That had to be deafening, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. So really, this says Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai came down to Mount Sinai in a chariot. He came down in a huge fathership. This is what actually happened, right? The Lord came down in a fathership. It wasn't an actual cloud, right? See if we can get something around this size. The Lord came down. But when the Lord came down, he had that tractor beam, for lack of better terms, right? That light that beamed down upon the mount, right? See if I can find let's do with tractor beam, right? Bear with me. Mothership with tractor beam. So if you wanted a visual, right, it was something like this. This is what they saw. And they don't teach that in Christianity. Go ask your pastor what really happened on a mount. Tell your pastor, look, a UFO came down and a tractor beam came down and a heat and it landed and it disrupted the natural state of the land and the mountains, and it was a cataclysmic event where the geography got shifted and it was seemed as though the whole mountain was on fire when the Lord descended in a chariot, man. That's what actually happened. And the people saw that, right? And the people saw that. Verse number 19, Exodus 19 and 19. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and the Most High answered him by a voice. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai, on the top of the mount. And the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up, right? And the Lord said unto Moses, go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. When they can't, I don't want them to see what I'm showing you, right? Tell them to stand still, hold their peace. And let the priests also, which come near to the Lord, sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. Right? But they need to purify themselves before they make me wax hot, man. That's what the Most High is saying. I don't want to break forth and kill you, man. Get your spirit right. I don't want to see you defiled. And that's like in Matthew the 22nd chapter, the parable of the wedding. Yahweh said, how come, here I am, you don't have your wedding garment. What the hell is going on? And it says the man was speechless. So when the Lord appears, you better make sure you come correct. And if you're a priest, the Lord called them out, man. Make sure they sanctify themselves, because if I see them and they're not in order, I'm going to break forth and I'm going to kill them. So this isn't your Christian pastors, Jesus. This isn't what your mother grew up with, man. Right? The Lord is a man of war. And the Lord commands all things to be done in order. He said, lest I break forth on you or upon them. And Moses said unto Yahweh, Bashmi Abashai, the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, set bounds upon the mount and sanctify it. And the Lord said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break forth to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. And Moses went down unto the people and spake unto them. So this is how the origins of the event happened. And then you read about the 10 commandments that were given. So the 10 commandments were given to the Israelites prior to Moses coming down with the 2 tables of stone. A lot of people think the 10 commandments were given by Moses when he immediately had the 2 tables of stone. That's not what happened. Moses didn't come down from Mount Sinai at the beginning with 2 tables of stone, hold them up and say, okay, here's the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Okay, second commandment, okay, thou shalt. And then he didn't do that, man. Right? So the 10 commandments were actually given on Mount Sinai prior to Moses coming down with the tables of stone. You got to get what happened. You have to recall these events in order. Right? When you go to quick precept in Acts 11 concerning Peter, you don't want to butcher what happened, man. Right? This let me see if I get this quick account. Acts 11. Let's see. Here it is. Acts 11 and 4. But Peter rehearsed the matter from the beginning and expounded it by order unto them, saying, right, so this was a big deal. When he was expounding to the elders and the Jews and the different men, why he went to Cornelius and Joppa and all these things, Caesarea, these things had to be expounded in order, right? So when you're breaking down what happened on Mount Sinai, you can't take Christianity and they tell you what happened. Well, Moses, when he went up there and the 10 commandments immediately came when Moses came down with the 2 tables of stone. That's not what happened. They heard the commandments from the mount. And then when you go to the 24th chapter, Moses went up and then he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. Right? And we're going to read them. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the 10 commandments. Actually, I'm going to read them. We're not going to do, an in-depth breakdown, but here's the 10 commandments. And God spake all these words, saying, I am Yahweh, Bashmi Abashai, thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's the first commandment. And whatever like we always say, this goes into common so-called deities of today's time, Allah and Brahma and Buddha and all these false gods, white Jesus. But anything that you exalt and put before the power of the creator of heaven and earth, that becomes your God. You could put TV before the Most High God. You wouldn't watch 15 hours of your favorite TV show. That became your God because you didn't read, you didn't pray, you didn't study. right? You didn't go over the scriptures. You didn't meditate. You made that TV show your God. You can make women your God, right? You are searching out a wife, spending 18 hours to the ends of the earth trying to find the wife, but you're neglecting serving the Most High, right? So that's the first commandment. And a lot of people, you put idolatry is the, I can tell you in Wisdom of Solomon, it's the beginning of all evil, right? Let me get that in Wisdom of Solomon, right? Chapter 14. So these commandments were given, right? Straight up and down through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai. Right? This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and 27. For the worshiping of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. You see that? So from the time of the creation, man was into idolatry, the serpent, and it was multiple serpents, the serpentine nation, right? That the in the Garden of Eden, they worshiped idols. And then this society, when you read Revelation, the 9th chapter, the Lord said they repented not, that they should worship devils and idols of wood and gold, which neither can see or hear, paraphrase. So even in Revelation, men are going to die worshiping idols. In Genesis, men were worshiping idols, right? And whatever you make and put before the Most High, that becomes your idol. So thou shalt have no other gods before me. Verse number 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth, right? So you can't manufacture your God. Manufacture goes back to the Latin word, compound word manus, which means hand, and facere, meaning to do. So you can't make with your hands or using instruments your own God. You can't grave it on wood. You can't take a tree and make a God. You can't take gold, silver, these earthly elements, and inscribe and mold and fashion with clay or whatever your own God. That's a graven image. Graven image, you got brothers that wear lions. That's not a graven image, right? You got brothers that have menorah chains. That's not a graven image. A graven image is something that you create with the intent to worship. Remember, Solomon had cherubims and palm trees and oxen and these different things that he created in the temple. Right? Let me get that in 1 Kings. Right? He had that, man. So graven images is not wearing a lion or a menorah. Right? Now, a cross is indeed a graven image because it is advocating white supremacy, the slaughter of our Lord, and is a weapon. It is a weapon of mass destruction. ICBM missiles are not the only weapons of mass destruction. The cross, the copperstone, all idols are weapons of mass destruction to the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, right? Physically and spiritually, right? Now, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and 29. Here's the account of Solomon and his work that he did in the temple. It reads, and on the borders that were between the ledges were lions, oxen, and cherubims. Now, cherubims are spirits in the third heaven, but he made them, right? And upon the ledges, there was a base above, and beneath the lions and oxen were certain additions made of thin work, right? So he had lions and oxen and cherubims. He made these things, but Solomon, he didn't worship it. Where's the account where the Most High came and sent the prophet to Solomon and say, you're going off. Thou hast made thee lion and oxen and has rebelled against the words of the Lord, right? That didn't happen. So we have to understand and clarify what a graven image is. Okay? So you can't make anything that is in heaven above and worship it. So you can't make your own angel out of stone and clay and worship it. It says, or that is in the earth beneath. You can't take man, right? Or things in the earth, stones and whatever, and make your own God and worship it. And you can't take things under the earth. You can't say, you know what? I'm going to worship a dolphin or a whale or Leviathan. I heard Leviathan is very mighty. He needs to be lauded and praised. So you make under the earth, you make this golden Leviathan and you worship it in your closet, right? No graven images, no charms, no amulets, no crystal stones, no lucky necklaces, no superstitious events that you get down with, man. Right? Like some crystal stones. Oh, this stone it gives me energy. Now, I will say this. Hold on. Look at this smoky quartz. It lets go of your negative thoughts and energy. There's a spirit. Now, I'll say this element. There are elements in the earth. There's a certain spirit attached to elements in the earth, right? Now, man doesn't have that understanding. That's why the priests had those stones. They weren't picked by accident. The Most High didn't accidentally pick the 12 stones, the amethyst and the emerald, and the carbuncle for the high priest. Those stones, there's a spirit behind it. But that doesn't mean you go out, dig up the stones, and out of your own understanding, you determine what that stone could do for you. Only the Most High could do things for you. And that understanding of the stones and the stars and the elements, we've been cut off from that. We don't have that now. We had that in the ancient world. Issachar knew the understanding of the times. They can look at constellations and the patterns of the heavens and relay those messages and communicate unto men. Certain men, certain apothecaries, they can look at herbs and say that's what that herb can help you with your physical infirmities, and that herb can help you with your stress. That herb right there can help you with your that outbreak that you have. And they can look at the stones, and they knew certain stones. Even today, Esau, he told you that certain stones are radioactive, right? Certain stones, if you get too close to these certain rocks, they have certain magnetic attractions to it. It could jam up your electricity. So there are a spirit behind stones, but man can't worship stones and assume what these stones can do for them, right? Don't make you, this is my crystal amethyst, and I'm going to bow down to it. It helps me forget my pain. That's a graven image. Verse number 5. Thou shalt not bow down. This Exodus 20:5. Thou shalt not bow down to thy Slakia. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahweh thy God in vain, for Yahweh, Bahashmi Abashai, will not hold him guiltless that taketh this name in vain. Right. So taking the name of the Lord in vain is not saying, oh, Jesus Christ, I forgot my wallet at home. Jesus Christ, Christ. That's not taking the name of the Most High in vain. The Lord's name is not Christ, and his name is in Jesus. The Most High's name is Yahweh. Taking his name in vain is using his name in matters, situations, and circumstances that are completely unwarranted. The name of the Most High should only be used for the edification of the church through prayer and through intercession to the Most High, right? Other than that, the name of the Most High, it's a holy name. So taking it in vain, and I'm not going to do it, but taking the name of the vain is doing what people do today, right? So you don't want to take the name of Yahweh and just use it loosely as if it's nothing. The Lord gonna get up with you, man. Right? Now, also taking the name of Yahweh in vain is a little bit deeper because his name is his character, right? The spirit of the Most High. So your name is who you are. It's an embodiment of your characteristics and your behavior, your mannerisms, and your demeanor, right? That's why if you tarnish somebody's name, that's not literal. It's metaphoric about how you tarnish who they are, their reputation. That's why Solomon spoke about the name of the Lord being used in vain by means of theft, right? Let's prove that. Proverbs chapter 30 and verse number 9. Lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. You see that? So even if you commit particular sins, you take the name of the Most High in vain. When you commit adultery, you take the name of the Most High in vain. The name of the Most High was put on us by law in Numbers, the 6th chapter, by the priest. So when you commit sins, you're essentially going astray from the name of the Most High. Like your wife, right? Your wife has your name. If you're Mr. Jones and your wife maiden's name was Smith, she is now Mrs. Jones. So she carries your vibration. She's a part of you. And she could tarnish the whole James household or Jones household. Let's say she go out and commit adultery, make a fool out of herself, and get caught, doing God knows what. The Jones name is tarnished. She's taken the name of your family and your father's side and completely tarnished it, right? So don't take the name of the Most High in vain verbally, but also through your deeds, because the Most High will not hold you guiltless, which means you're going to be punished. These are the 10 commandments. These are what's written on the tables of stone. But we're just going through it very vaguely before we, or loosely, before we go back into what I want to go into. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, right? 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Right, and that's plain. The Sabbath is plain, right? You keep the Sabbath day holy. No buying, no selling, no cooking, no sex on the Sabbath, no work on the Shabbat, right? No doing your own pleasure, speaking your own words. Keep that day holy. That is the day of how it is the most holiest day, right? When you read 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, right? Now, verse number 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, right? And if you want a more in-depth breakdown of honoring your father and your mother, a beautiful chapter to read is Ecclesiasticus, the 3rd chapter. It's a very in-depth breakdown of honoring your father and your mother. That's why Jake died at the age of 20. You died when you were 18. You got shot when you was 27. All hell breaks loose in the youth of our families, because Jake, you got Jake that fight their mother, they cuss out their father. I hate you. They disobey them. That's why your days are cut short, man. Why do you think all of our fathers lived 900 years old, 800 years old? And they followed these commandments, man. They honored their father and their mother. So read back the 3rd chapter if you want more breakdown on that. Thou shalt not kill. This kill is really thou shalt not murder, right? Right? Because you can kill. David killed Goliath. Judas Maccabees, they killed Greeks. The Most High didn't get up with them for that. So this is really murder. This is really murder. And Yahushua said that, man. Right? Yahushua said that in Matthew. He actually said that in Matthew, the 19th chapter. Right? Matthew chapter 19. Right? And verse number 18. Here's what Yahushua said. He said unto him, which commandments do I have to keep? Yahushua said, thou shalt do no murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. See that? So he said, thou shalt do no murder. Because that's the correct understanding behind thou shalt not kill. Right? Now, I may do an in-depth breakdown of these commandments on another day, right? Because really, there's a time to kill. Because Joab got jammed up by David and by the Most High because he killed in a time of peace, but he charged that death as if it was a time of war, right? So there's a time to kill too. And then you have manslaughter, you have premeditated murder, you have unsolved murders. There's a lot that goes into that. So we may do more in-depth breakdowns on these commandments. Thou shalt not commit adultery. What is adultery? If you're a married woman or you're promised to a man, you cannot have sex with another man. That is adultery. If you're a man, you cannot have sex with a woman that is promised to, meaning betrothed, or indeed married to another man. That is adultery. Thou shalt not steal, right? You can't take what's not yours, right? Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. False witnesses saying, hey, I saw brother Judah commit adultery with sister Ruth, but it never happened. That's bearing false witness. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Right? So it means you can't yearn to possess something that's not yours. You can't be thinking about a brother's ox. Man, that damn ox, man. Oh my goodness, man. When you saw them horns on them, I gotta have that ox, man. Look how you plowing that field. Right? Damn, that's a hell of an ox right there. I mean, damn. Right? Jake, you do that with cars, man. Shoes, clothes, whatever your brother got. Look at this woman, man. What are you doing with her? He don't deserve that. Right? So you can't covet. You can't yearn to possess things that's not yours. Right? Verse number 18. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. When the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. So when the 10 commandments were given, the people, they couldn't take it. They couldn't take the spirit that the Most High had going on, man. When the trumpet, the thunders, the lightnings, and they were fearful. So they said they removed, they backed off, man. From the boundary of the mountain, they stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. So the 10 commandments were given directly by Yahweh Shemel Shai, verbally, right? That's where they're inscribed in tables of stone. The rest of the commandments were also given verbally by Yahweh Shemel Shai, but these are the first ones that were given. And all of the law within itself, all of the law, no matter what the commandments are, they go back to the 10 commandments anyway. Every single law, statute, and commandment, it goes back to one of the 10 commandments. Because 10 represents perfection or a whole amount or completion. That's why there were 10 given, right? That number 10 has always been a spiritual number used by Yahweh Shem Shai, right? And we went through that plenty of times. That's why the 10 is so important. Genesis, let's prove that, right? Genesis chapter 31:7, to touch on that number 10. And your father hath deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. So 10 means a complete amount. 10 is always completion. This was enough for Jacob to leave under the service of Laban, right? A complete amount of times. Let's go to Job 19, right? That's why it wasn't 6 commandments given, right? Job chapter 19:3. These 10 times have ye reproached me, ye are not ashamed that ye make yourselves strange to me. And that's what Job was talking to his friends. But you see that number 10 being used again. So that's why you had these 10 that were given, right? You had these 10 that were given. Now, let's go to Exodus 24, right? About Moses going up on the mount, right? This Exodus chapter 24:12. It reads, and Yahweh said unto Moses. So what happened was after those commandments were initially given, and I encourage brothers, you got to go back and read this. Go back and read Exodus, right? And see what actually happened. So what happened was earlier in this chapter, they established the covenant. Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and all in the audience. He said, all that the Lord has said, we will do and be obedient. Then they had a meal to essentially confirm the covenant. I did a lesson not too long ago, maybe a few months ago, regarding what establishes a covenant, right? Blood is coupled by or married with a covenant meal, witnesses, all these things. So they had a covenant meal. And then afterwards, here's Moses going up on the mount, right? Exodus 24:12. And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them, right? And that's I had it put up earlier. These are your tables of stone, right? What you call the 10 commandments, right? And it was written on both sides, should I say, right? And they were written in the Hebrew, like the movie. Like I pulled up, where's that? Damn, was that? It's called the Ten Commandments, right? They show it every so-called Easter, right? Let me see if I can find it. See that? They show it every so-called Easter, right? And these are the Ten Commandments in the Hebrew that Moses got. All right. Now, let's go back to this. Exodus 24 and verse 13. And Moses rose up, and this minister Joshua, and Moses went up into the mount of God. And he said unto the elders, tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. Meaning, okay, I'm out. Aaron and Hur, they're in charge. And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. So again, that huge fathership came down and covered the entire mountain. Huge spaceship. And the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the seventh day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. And again, just to show that, here's what he saw. This is what Moses had to deal with. Right? I just typed it in not too long ago. When it said it was in his sight as a devouring fire, it wasn't actual fire. Right? Here's what it was. It was your so-called UFO, the cloud, and it was the tractor beam that came behind it. Right? And that light covered the whole mountain, and nobody could see it. It looked like fire, whatever color it was. So when Moses went up into that light, it looked like he was into that devouring fire. Right? And he was talking to the Lord. See that? And he was talking to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. So this was a big deal right here, man. Let me read this again. And verse 17 in Exodus chapter 24. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. So you see, they say like devouring fire. It wasn't actual fire. When you read about pillars of fire, it's not literal fire. Remember, Moses wrote the book of Exodus. He wrote Genesis. He wrote Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So he uses a lot of similitudes. When you read about Jacob's ladder, Moses wrote that. It wasn't an actual ladder. It was a portal where the angels go from the celestial realm to the terrestrial realm, from that dimension to this dimension. When he wrote about the serpent, Moses didn't have to write a serpent. He could have said, okay, that was a man, okay, and he gave, Eve philosophies and doctrines, and he could have said that, right? But he didn't, because the Most High didn't tell him to do that. The Most High told, let's go to 2nd Ezra 14 after I read this, right? And see what really happened, right? Verse number 18. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud, Salaki, and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights, right? Now, why 40? Because numbers have biblical significance, right? Or biblical numbers have significance. 7, 10, 6, 9, 3, 12 apostles, 12 so-called constellations, 12 sons of Jacob, 12 tribes of Israel, right? Number 12 has a spiritual meaning. 7 means completion or an indefinite amount. 6 means incompletion or destruction. 9 means incompletion. 10 means a complete amount or a whole amount, right? 5 means a certain portion. 4 means an indefinite amount. 3 means emphasis, or it's a lower level perfection. 8 has a spiritual meaning, which means infinity, right? 2 has a spiritual meaning, which is like confirmation. Most High speaketh once, yea, twice. Right? So all these numbers have a spiritual meaning. 40 has a spiritual meaning, and 40 on a spiritual level is a number that's used to describe a significant shift in events, right? That's what it's used for. When something significant happens, the Most High throws that number 40 out there. During the flood, it was 40. The Lord had it rain for 40 days and 40 nights. That's a big transition from the elder world into the post-flood. Yahushua fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, right? So these are heavy transitional periods. That's what the 40 is used for. Heavy transitional periods. And every time after the 40, something significant happens after that transition. Right? Let's go to Acts real quick. Chapter 1. Right? Just to touch on why it was 40. And it's all spiritual because the chariot was on a mount for 6 days, but on the 7th day, it called Moses. Right? After he got 10 commandments. And then for 40 days, he's on the mount. Acts 1 and 3. Right? Let's read this. To whom also he showed himself alive after his passion by many infallible proofs, being seen of them 40 days, and speaking of the things pertaining unto the kingdom of God. So why was Yahushua with the apostles 40 days? Right? Well, 40 again goes into a significant transition because right after that, he was translated into the chariot. And then Pentecost happened. We had the cloven tongues of fire. And the ministry started catching fire, man, after those 40 days. There's always something major that happens after the 40 days. Let's go to Genesis 7. Kind of talked about it, but let's read it. Genesis chapter 7 and verse number 4. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. This is another time where 40 is marking a huge transition, where all mankind died except 8 souls. Noah and his wife, Shem and his wife, Japheth and his wife, and Ham and his wife. And right after that, everybody died. So that's why he was on a mount for 40 days and 40 nights. Right? Now, let's go to 2nd Ezra to see what happened more on the mount. Right? 2nd Ezra, the 14th chapter. Right? Let's see where I'm at with time through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shah. Okay, come. All right, this 2nd Ezra, chapter 14 and verse number 1. And it came to pass, upon the 3rd day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me, and said, Esdras, Esdras. And I said, Here am I, Lord. And I stood upon my feet. This is Ezra speaking, right? Giving an account of what happened, right? And these prophecies. And the Most High is about to tell you what happened with him and Moses. Verse number 3. Then said he unto me, In the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses, and talked with him when my people served in Egypt. And I sent him, Slakia, and led my people out of Egypt, and brought him up to the Mount of Sinai, where I held him by me a long season. So the 40 days and 40 nights is the long season. And I showed him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, These words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide. So he showed him many wondrous things, right? It doesn't really tell you in the book of Exodus all of the wondrous things, right? Doesn't really show you. Now, if you want to know what he was given on Mount Sinai, he was given the rest of the laws, right? When you read the 25th chapter, the construction of the Ark of the Covenant, the Tabernacle, getting the priests in order, all of these things, all of that goes into what he got on Mount Sinai. He wasn't on Mount Sinai getting the 10 Commandments. They already got the 10 Commandments in the 20th chapter. So why would Moses have to be up there on Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights getting something written in stone that he already heard? about a week ago. Stop following these Christian pastors, man. There were many things going on, man. It says in Second Ezra that he saw the secret to the times. Times are years, right? Like let me prove that. Well, the Lord told Nebuchadnezzar that you're going to be out in a wilderness or in a field living like a beast until 7 times pass over thee, right? Until 7 times pass over you. I want Daniel 4, Salakia. So times are years. When he saw the secret to the times, he saw the secrets of the years, right? So let's prove that. This is Daniel. Let's see, is this what I want? I want 4, I believe I want 30. Right? Let's see. 32. Daniel chapter 4 and 32. Here's the judgment on Nebuchadnezzar. It reads, and they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen. That they are the angels, right? They're going to drive you away. They're going to put spirits on you. And 7 times shall pass over thee until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men and giveth it to whomsoever he will. So he would be out there for 7 times, meaning 7 years. Times represent years, right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 12, right? I believe this is what I want, right? 2nd Ezra chapter 12 and verse number, bear with me, I want to get this, right? Bear with me. Here it is, 2nd Ezra 12 and 21, about the time. And 2 of them shall perish, the middle time approaching. 4 shall be kept until the end begin to approach, but 2 shall be kept until the end. Now, this is going into the Roman Empire and different sub-kingdoms, for lack of better terms, that would rule and would be shut down. Now, when it says 2 of them shall perish, the middle time approaching, that goes into from the time of the first Julius Caesar, the first emperor, right? Dictator emperor, unto Romulus Augustus, right? That's the middle time approaching, right? Because Romulus Augustus died as the middle time was approaching. The middle time are the Middle Ages, right? The Western Roman Empire fell in 476 AD. That's right as the Middle Ages were approaching. So the times are ages. The middle time represents the ages, right? The Middle Ages or the medieval times, what they call the Dark Ages, if you can understand, right? So when Moses saw the secrets of the times, he saw the middle time. He saw the medieval ages. You talk about knights in shining armor and Lancelot and Charlemagne and these different men that walked the earth. Moses actually saw the middle time. Solomon saw the middle time, right? Let me get that in Wisdom of Solomon. So you got the end times, beginning of time, and you have the middle time. So don't think he was up there just getting 10 commandments, right? This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse number 18. Here's what Solomon saw: the beginning, ending, and midst of the times, the alterations of the turning of the sun, and the change of seasons. So this would Solomon saw the creation, you know, and he saw the end of the world. He saw the destruction of America. Moses also saw the destruction of America. Moses saw the ICBM missiles. Moses saw the chariots, right? Moses saw the elect getting beamed up, and Solomon, and the midst of the times. So that those Middle Ages, right? The Middle Ages, medieval period, if you can understand, from around 500 AD to what scholars would say roughly 1500 AD, right? Let's go back to the book of 2nd Ezra, the 14th chapter. So the things that we speak about prophetically, Moses saw these things, man. Right? Moses saw these things. Let's read that again. In 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and 5. And told him many wondrous things. And nobody really knows what these things are. See, everything's not written, man. for our understanding. See, Moses knew about other books, right? When you go to Numbers, let's go to Numbers 21. Moses knew about other books, man, that we don't have. Numbers chapter 21 and 14, right? Numbers 21 and 14. Wherefore it is said in the book of the wars of Yahweh, what he did in the Red Sea and in the brooks of Arnon, right? So Moses knew, and we don't have that. No man has the actual books of the wars of the Lord. Moses had that. The ancient Jasher, he knew about that. Not the current book of Jasher going around. If you have a book of Jasher now, it's not the real book of Jasher. It's circulating, being authorized by the so-called white man. But the ancient book of the wars of the Lord and the Most High's wars he did in the Red Sea, it says what he did in the Red Sea. Right? Now, meaning how he overthrew Pharaoh. Now, it doesn't tell you what really happened, but I'm led to believe he gave an in-depth breakdown on how he took the wheels off the chariots and what really happened and what angel was used and how long did it take and a decree that was given, all these things. You know, what he did in the Red Sea, the in-depth breakdown of what really happened with the sea being split. That's in the book of the wars of the Lord, right? These are part of the wondrous things that Moses saw. You know, it says, let me read on in this, and showed him the secrets of the times. And I covered that, right? He saw the end of the world. He saw all these different events and the end. So he saw this generation. Yahweh shall returning. Elect getting translated. Russia in power. Gog and Magog. The 10 toes. And commanded him, saying, these words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide. So there are certain words that he declared. Certain things, like I always say, are plain. Certain things are plain upon tables. Right? And I always use the example like the dimensions of the ark. That's plain. When it says that Methuselah was 969 years old, that's plain. There's nothing deep about that. Abraham, 175. That's plain. When Sarah had to get buried in Genesis 23rd chapter, there's no in-depth breakdown about that. He made it plain. But everything that Moses wrote was not made plain. It says, and these shalt thou hide. How do you hide it? Did he take it and dig it under a ditch? No. You hide something by making it dark. A dark saying. When something is dark, it means whatever, it means something's being hidden. See, when you turn all of the lights off in your house, it becomes dark. It doesn't mean that the things in your house are gone. It means that they're hidden. They're covered. So certain understandings have been covered. You hide things by darkness. That's why there's a thing called dark sayings. Right? Let me get that in Psalms. You have dark parables. You have dark sentences. Before I get that in Psalms, we'll open up another apocrypha. I feel like I'm going to have to. And we're going to go to Ecclesiasticus, the 39th chapter. Right? So he hid things by using dark sentences. Right? Let's get this in Genesis, like here. Sirach chapter 39. Right? And the Lord was told that, right? The Lord told Moses that. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 and 23. Right? Here's what wise men are about. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. So dark parables, they're there. You see the text. You see the words on the page, but the understanding has been shrouded in darkness. They're hidden. So certain things in the Torah, a lot of the Torah is deep. There's a spiritual meaning behind the Sabbath, right? The Lord didn't break that. Moses didn't write that down. He didn't write down what the Sabbath really is about. He didn't write down who the serpent was, what nakedness meant, what the fig leaves and apron were, what the breath of life was. where the actual location of the Garden of Eden was. He didn't write all of that. That's hidden, right? Those things are hidden. Those things aren't given to man. Now you can get mad, well, why would the Most High do that? I'm going to tell you why the Most High did that, right? Let's go to Mark, the 4th chapter. And that's not the Most High's last time doing that. Here's why he did it. Mark chapter 4 and verse number 10. Same reason why Yahweh Shah spoke in parables. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked of him the parable, right? 12 asked him about the parable of the sower, right? The seed and the sower. And he said unto them, unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God, but unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables. He said, the 12, I want y'all to know it. Everybody else who I'm teaching, I don't want them to get it. That don't sound like your granny's Jesus. Your granny's Jesus loves everybody and all of the children. And he wants everybody to get it. Yahweh Shah, he don't want everybody to get it. If he wanted everybody to get it, he wouldn't make it so complicated and speak in parables, which are illustrated stories, mysteries, if you will. He said, I want y'all to get it. I'm speaking in code. These things are codified. That seeing, they may see and not perceive. And hearing, they may hear and not understand. Lest at any time they should be converted and their sins should be forgiven them. And the Lord didn't want their sins to be forgiven. Certain people, the Most High don't want, he don't want them to get this truth, man. He don't want them to get the things that are hidden, right? So on Mount Sinai, when Moses was up there, he also received hidden things through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Let's go back to Exodus 24. Right? Exodus, Salakia, chapter 24. And I'm going to read 18 again. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. Now let's go to the next chapter. When you read the 25th chapter, he begins to instruct him about the laws, right? The sanctuary, right? The building of the Ark of the Covenant, the table of showbread, the menorah, all these things that represent Yahweh Shai. And Moses could have wrote down what the Ark of the Covenant represented and gave the spiritual breakdown behind the cherubims and the mercy seat. And okay, here's what's, he didn't do that. So these are the things that were expounded upon Moses for 40 days and 40 nights. Even the dimensions of the tabernacle, that stuff was given to Moses. It takes time to learn that, to understand that, man. This is a big deal going on. How long the tabernacle has to be, how high it has to be, what material has to be used. You can't get that in one day. Okay, you got to use goat's hair here. The high priest, he can only dress like this. And to learn that, that's an intense situation, right? That's an intense moment. You got to be tapped in, right? Because you got 40 days and 40 nights to learn it. And the Most High, he'll put the spirit in you to understand it, right? He'll put the spirit in you to understand it. Now, let's go to Exodus chapter 31. Right, here's Moses, the chapter of Moses coming down from the mount. Right? This Exodus chapter 31 and verse number 18. So when you read Exodus chapter 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31, those chapters go into what happened on the mount for 40 days and 40 nights. And whatever you read from Exodus 25 to 31, that's what the Most High wants you to know. Whatever the Most High don't want you to know, you're not going to get it in those chapters, right? That's how it went down. That's how it goes. Now, when you read 31 and 18, it says what? Right? Exodus 31 and 18. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone written with the finger of God. See that? So these are 2 tables of stone, and I covered that. I showed the 10 commandments. And there are 2 tables of testimony, right? Let's go into this word testimony, right? A testimony is like an oath that you give, right? A confirmation, right? So they have testimony, witness, right? It says testimony, when you go into the lexicon, of the 10 words on the tables as a solemn divine charge, right? Because this is a proof of the confirmation of the covenant, right? It's not the covenant within itself, but it's proof. It's a witness of the covenant, if you will, for lack of better terms. Now, here's why I also wanted to go into this, because at camp, you had this Jake that said that it was literally written with the finger of God. It doesn't mean that it was actually written with the finger of God. Right? Let's pull up the tables of stone one more time. The Most High didn't take his actual finger and put it on a stone. Right? First of all, the Most High's finger is too big for the stone. Right? First of all, the Most High. Second of all, the Most High is not going to defile his finger with earthly stone. Right? Third of all, that's not what it's talking about. Right? Now your finger, through the spirit and power of Yahweh. See, body parts in the Bible, let me preface this. Body parts in the Bible all have a significant meaning, right? We've even done lessons on certain intestines and why the Most High requires the liver and the kidney and these different things, right? There are spiritual meanings behind Slakia, right? Behind certain body parts, right? That the Most High gives. So the finger, your finger represents your power and strength, right? Here's a precept we pulled at camp, right? We'll get more. Your finger represents your power and your strength, and it's usually your right hand, your right finger. Proverbs chapter 7 and verse number 2. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye, right? Bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the tables of thine heart. What does it mean you bind the law upon your fingers, right? It means your strength and your power comes from keeping the law. You bind them upon your finger, meaning you do the law. What does it mean you write them upon the table of your heart? See, the Most High gave us 2 tables of stone. The 2 tables of stone also have a spiritual significance behind it. Because the 2 tables of stone represent us not being able to keep the commandments. It represents the stony heart. The same way that stones break and stones can be withering away by the elements and eroded and destroyed and collapse and break in pieces. It's the exact same way how we handle the law within ourselves. The Lord calls it a stony heart. So when you keep the law, you write it upon the tables of your heart, right? And your finger represents your ability to keep the law. So we're going to touch on the finger first, and then we're going to touch more on why they're on tables of stone, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Let's go to Leviticus to see why the Most High deals with these various body parts, right? Why finger? This is Leviticus chapter 8 and verse number 23. I'll start at 22 to get the context. And he brought the other ram, the ram of consecration, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands upon the head of the ram, right? And he slew it. And Moses took up the blood of it and put it upon the tip of Aaron's right ear and upon the thumb of his right hand and upon the great toe of his right foot. Why? Why would he do that? Why your right ear? Why not your left ear? How come it go on his nose or in his lips? Right? Why? Because your right ear represents understanding. Your ear represents understanding, right? When you go to, let's get a quick precept on that. Let's go to Job 34 and 3. It reads, I'm going to start at 2. Hear my words, O ye wise men, give ear unto me, ye that have knowledge. For the ear trieth words as the mouth tasteth meat. So your ear trying words as your mouth tasteth meat, meaning the same way that you eat meat and you can say, hold on, this is savory, this is spicy. You know, if this meat is chewy, that steak, hold on, that's lamb. You can discern. Some of your mouth can discern different meats. It's the same way that your ear or your mind can discern false doctrine and truth. So your right ear, right represents strength and power. Right? It's proof that right. You always want to have stuff go into your right ear. Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and 2. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart is at his left. Right? So you want your decisions to be made in righteousness. That's what it's saying. A fool is going to make wicked decisions. So his right ear, we understand that now, represents understanding, right? A righteous understanding. And the thumb of your right hand, meaning you doing the works, right? Chiefly doing the works, the power to do the works. And your great toe on your right foot, meaning you're walking in righteousness. You're walking and you're being sanctified. Your works are being sanctified. Your mind is being sanctified by the blood. And your walk as a priest is being sanctified by the blood. That's why it's the right ear, the right hand, it's like the right thumb, and the great toe. So your dexterities and your appendages and these different things, there's a meaning behind it. Right? There's a meaning behind it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Right? That's why we read that in Proverbs. He said, write that upon the tables of your heart, right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Let's go to Luke 11, right? It says these laws were written with the finger of God, right? See where I'm at with time, Salakia. Okay, Khan. Luke 11, and I want 20. Here's what Yahushua said. But if I, with the finger of God, cast out devils, no doubt the kingdom of God is come upon you. Right? The Yahushua take a literal finger and just start casting out devils. He was just doing this. No, green, it means he had the strength and power given to him by Yahweh himself. Right? That's what that means. He had the strength and the power given to him by Yahweh. That's how he cast out devils, through the Holy Spirit. That's the finger of God, the strength of Yahweh. Right? So don't think the finger of God is literal. Let's get one more. Let's go to Exodus, the 8th chapter. Concerning the plagues of Egypt. Right? Let's see. I want Exodus chapter 8 and 19. So you have these magicians of Egypt. They wanted to bring forth lice. They weren't able to do it. So here's what they said. They want to replicate all of the plagues. But darkness can never surpass the light. So here's what they said. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. Why did they say that the plague was the finger of God? Because they couldn't replicate it. They couldn't produce lice on the earth. That was the power of the Most High. The power of the Most High. So now we see that with that left hand represent your left side of your heart, your right ear, with the finger represents. Let's get one more on your finger. Leviticus 4. Right? All these things have a spiritual meaning. Leviticus chapter 4 and verse number 6. And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood, not your thumb, not your foot, not your ear, it says your finger in the blood, and sprinkle of the blood 7 times, not 6, but 7 times before the Lord, for the veil of the sanctuary. So if you decide to use your thumb or anything else, you put your elbow, and you'll get put to death. You have to take your finger, and it had to be done 7 times, right? Your finger, and the finger represents the power of the Most High, right? The power of the Most High. I believe even Rehoboam said, my little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins, representing the power and the affliction that he was going to put upon the northern kingdom. So that was a common knowledge back then. Only now today does Jake think that he had an actual finger, right? That was inscribing the 2 tables of stone, right? Exodus 31 and 18. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communion with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God. So now we know what this means. Written with the finger of the Most High. I mean, they were given by the power of Yahweh, Bashmi Awashah. Now, the tables of stone, the stone represents our inability to keep the law, right? Let's get the book of Exodus. I want to add a few precepts. I want to go to Ezekiel, rather, right? Let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 11 and 17, right? Let's go to Ezekiel, chapter 11 and 17. The stony heart. The Lord said in Proverbs 7, write it upon the tables of your heart. Ezekiel chapter 11 and verse number, let me get straight to the point. Let's see. 19. Let's get straight to the point. Ezekiel 11 and 19. And I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you, and I will take the stony heart out of their flesh, and will give them a heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my ordinances and do them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. So the stony heart, that's why when Moses went down and he saw Israel in confusion, serving the 2 golden calves, he broke the 2 tables of stone, which is symbolic for Israel breaking the law, because that's what they were doing. As soon as he broke the tables of stone, that was the same time that we were breaking the law. So the stony heart represents our inability to keep the law. Put inside the Ark of the Covenant, which is the physical representation of Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Bashmi Awashah. But the Lord is going to remove the tables of stone from our hearts and put the laws in our inward parts. That's why we're not going to need the Ark of the Covenant in the kingdom that has the tables of stone inside of it, because we're going to have the Ark of the Covenant with us, manifest as Yahweh Shai. We're not going to need the golden pot of manna because we have the manna. We're not going to need Aaron's rod that budded because we have a high priest. We're not going to need the tables of stone because it's going to be in us, right? So that's what that means regarding to the tables of stone. Let's get one more witness in the same book of Ezekiel, but we're going to go to the 36th chapter, right? Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse number 26, right? Ezekiel 36 and 26. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you an heart of flesh, right? And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. And ye shall dwell in the land that I give to your fathers, and ye shall be my people, and I will be your God. So this is the exact same account as the 11th chapter, right? Regarding the tables of stone. Regarding the tables of stone. Now, when Moses was given his law, like I went into at camp, it wasn't the Most High who handed him 2 tables of stone just outright. This was Yahweh Shai and the angels who actually gave Moses the law. We've actually showed paintings at times, right? Let's see if I can get this Moses UFO painting. And you can see Moses being given a law, but there's chariots in the background. Now, I pulled this up in time past. I'll have to see exactly, let's see, who painted this. I can't quite remember who painted this image. They may show it in the description, right? Let's see. Bear with me. It's an unknown artist. I was able to see the artist at one time, but this is an actual painting, right? You'll want your newsletter. You see chariots in the background and Moses having the law. So really, when Moses got the law, you had angels and chariots that were there, right? Now, how would the artist know that? Because it's in the Bible. It tells you that, right? So let's get what really happened. Let's go into Psalm 68, right? Psalm chapter 68 and 17. Psalms chapter 68 and 17. The chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. So when the Lord was in Mount Sinai, he had thousands, 20,000s and thousands of angels. When that thundering and the lightning was going on and that huge chariot came, you had shuttle ships. You had other chariots that were there around Moses, right? And you had angels that were there on Mount Sinai, right? And Yahushua and the angels, their presence, were there to deliver the law, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 33. And they don't teach you that in church, right? Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse number 2. And he said, the Lord came from Sinai, here's the precept to Psalm 68, and rose up from Seir unto them. He shined forth from Mount Paran, and he came when 10,000s of saints. From his right hand went a fiery law for them, right? Now, this is another account. He came with 10,000s of saints. These saints are not terrestrial saints. They're not angels. These saints are heavenly saints. These are the same saints that Enoch prophesied about. Just because you see the word saint doesn't mean it's talking about man, right? You have angelic saints, right? Let's get that in Jude, where he said, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints. This book of Jude, chapter 1 and 14. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which sinners have spoken against him. So when Yahushua returns, he's coming with 10,000s of his saints, the angels. The angels are your brothers. They're just your brothers in the heavens. Remember when John the Revelator bowed down to the angel in Revelation 19? What did the angel tell him? He said, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and one of thy brethren that have the testimony of the Most High, worship the Most High. For the testimony of the Most High is the spirit of prophecy, paraphrasing. So the angel said, I'm your brother. I'm a saint too. I'm a celestial saint, a heavenly saint, and you're a terrestrial saint. You watch over your brother, I watch over you, right? All these things, man. So, reading this, it says, on Mount Sinai, the Lord came with 10,000s of saints, and from his right hand went a fiery law from them, right? Let's go to the book of Galatians 3 and 19. Before I get that, let's go to 2nd Ezra 3, and I believe 19. Right? So now you're understanding it was the Lord and the angels and chariots that were present when the law was given. This 2nd Ezra chapter 3 and 17. Here's another account. And it came to pass that when thou leddest his seed out of Egypt, thou broughtest them up to the Mount Sinai. Right? Here's another witness. And bowing the heavens, thou didst set fast the earth. Movest the whole world, madest the depth to tremble, and troublest the men of that age. So even it was thunder and lightnings, but even the depth was trembling. It was waves roaring. It was probably tsunamis and typhoons. All hell was breaking loose when Yahushua and the angels came to give the law. And thy glory went through 4 gates of fire and of earthquake and of wind and of cold, that thou mightest give the law unto the seed of Jacob and diligence unto the generation of Israel. So you have 4 gates, right, of the elements. right? You have the fire, you have the earthquake, you have the wind, and the cold. These are all of the elements that were being stirred up. Now, gates are also portals, right? What Jacob called the ladder, he said, this is none other but the gate of heaven, right? So the Most High's glory was stirring up the four gates and all of the different elements, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashmi Yahushua. So when you go back to Galatians 3, here's another account. Galatians chapter 3 and 19. Wherefore then serveth the law? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained, meaning the law, it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator, right? So the angels actually gave the law, right? They gave the law. Let's get that in Hebrews, the 2nd chapter. And these are all precepts we pulled at camp. But I just want to go back and touch on these, right? The whole row. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse number 1, right? Oh, boy, you see that? Make sure this is showing. All right. Let's see. So that's bugging out. Let's go to Hebrews 2. See if we can get it here. You have blue letter again, right? Hebrews, the 2nd chapter. And I want to go to verse number 2. Actually, I want verse number 2. Hebrews chapter 2 and 2. I'll start at 1. Therefore, we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. For if the word spoken by angels was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received a just recompense of reward. So here's another account. The word spoken by angels is what he got in Exodus 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. That was the word spoken by the angels with the 10,000 of the chariots that came. Right? That's what it's saying. Now, let's get one more in Acts, the 7th chapter. Right? Acts, the 7th chapter. So that's what really happened on Mount Sinai. And remember, when Moses was coming down from the mount, he had a glow about him. He had to put a veil over his face. So when the four gates was being stirred up and the angels and the chariots and that presence was there, it altered his flesh. It put a spirit on him that kind of override his flesh, and his skin began to shine. So he had to actually put a veil over his face, which was also, it was literal, but it had a spiritual meaning behind it. Right? That's the glory that was going to fade away of the law. Right? But let's read this in Acts 7. You can read more about that in 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter. Right? So there was a lot going on the mount. Acts 7 and verse number 53. I'm going to get straight to the point. Who have received the law by the disposition of angels and have not kept it. So Galatians 3 and 19, Hebrews 2 and 1, Acts 7 and 53, Psalm 68, 17 on down, Deuteronomy 33, 2nd Ezra 3 and 19. They all are witnesses that the Yahushua and the angels gave Moses the law, right? They gave Moses the law. That's what happened on Mount Sinai. And that's why the blueprint for the tabernacle, right? The blueprint for how the high priest have to dress and all these things were given by the Lord. Let's go back to Exodus, right? Let's go to Exodus. We're going to go back because the blue letter is tripping. Satan. See that? Now we back through the spirit. Right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 32. Right? Exodus chapter 32. Actually, I want 34. Right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 34. This is Exodus chapter 34 and verse number 1. Now, remember, I pulled up how Moses, he broke the tables of stone when he saw the people worshiping the golden calf. So he had to actually get 2 more tables of stone. And let's see what happened. And that's how it is, man. You know, our people break the law, then we repent, then we keep the law again. That's what happened. We received the law. We were breaking the law, right? So the tables of stone were broken. Then we got the tables of stone again. And we go through this every day until Yahushua returns. on a spiritual level, if you got ears to hear. Exodus 34:1. And the Lord said unto Moses, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and I will write upon these tables of the words. It's like I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest. And be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning unto Mount Sinai, and present thyself there to me in the top of the mount. And no man shall come up with thee, neither let any man be seen throughout all the mount, neither let the flocks nor herds feed before the mount, for that mount. And he hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And Moses rose up early in the morning and went up unto Mount Sinai, as the Lord commanded him. And he took in his hand the 2 tables of stone, right? So he got him going up there. Now check this out. And the Lord descended in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of the Lord, right? A similar account to this is Job 38. The Lord coming down in a chariot and proclaiming the name of the Heavenly Father, right? Let's get that in Job 38, where the Lord spake to Job out of the whirlwind. Job chapter 38:1. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? So in Job, it was a huge fathership that came down and was talking to Job. But the Bible calls it the whirlwind, right? Now in Exodus, it was the same thing. The Lord descended with the chariot and proclaimed the name of the Lord. Answered Moses out of the whirlwind. Now in Numbers, the 12th chapter, the Lord told you what Moses would actually see in these encounters, right? Let's get this in Numbers 12:6. Numbers chapter 12 and verse number 6. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision and will speak unto him in a dream. And you have prophets that had dreams and visions, man. Ezra, Daniel, John had visions, right? My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of Yahweh shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And what Moses dealt with was the angel of Yahweh Ba'ashmel Shai's presence, right? That's the similitude, the angel of his presence. Let's get that in Isaiah 63, right? Isaiah chapter 63. And I believe this is what I want. Let's see. Isaiah chapter 63 and verse number 9. In all their affliction he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved them. And his love and then his pity, he redeemed them, and he bare them and carried them all the days of old. And that was how the Lord delivered us in the wilderness. He sent this angel before us. So the Most High, Moses didn't deal directly with Yahweh himself. He dealt with Yahweh Shai and the angels and the similitude of the Lord that he beheld, right? A similitude of the Lord, he beheld that, right? Because the Most High's presence can be made manifest through the Lord and through the angels, okay? So when the Lord descended in a cloud and stood with them there and proclaimed the name of the Lord, that's what happened. And the Lord passed by before him and proclaimed Yahweh, Yahweh, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the 3rd and to the 4th generation. And Moses made haste and bowed his head toward the earth and worshipped. And he said, if now I have found grace in thy sight, O Lord, let my Lord, I pray thee, go among us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for an inheritance. And the Lord began to speak to him on the mount again. When you read 34:10, goes to the feast days, to Sabbath, different offerings, and he goes into what happened after that encounter. Now let's jump down to verse number 27. And the Lord said unto Moses, write thou these words, for after the tenor of these words, I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments, right? So the first commandments were written by Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. The second tables of stone that we have, or that we had in the Ark of the Covenant, that was written by Moses, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? So with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashima Mashiach Malak Yahushai, biblical secrets, untold truth of what really happened on Mount Sinai. Most High willing you are edified. Kwame Shalom. Shalom.